history, so welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do part 2 in the 8-part series. Just kidding, it's probably more like 15-part series of me recapping my 2018 reading year. I also did a long extended series of videos on this last year, so if you want to check that out, I will link the playlist down below. I do like the same types of videos this year, just if you want to know what's coming your way, I guess. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. I have 12 questions that are just like an overview of the year. Some of these questions I will be doing individual videos on because it's like the best books, the worst books. But this is just like a one book answer type of video, and there's other questions in there as well. So let's look back on my 2018 reading year. So the first question is, what is the longest book that you read this year? And for me, that is definitely 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. It counted as one book in my Goodreads, that's why it showed up as the longest book. It's actually a trilogy, but I read the entire thing, I think. Yeah, I read the entire thing this year. It was on my project TBR, and I had previously read about like half of it, and I had to like reread that entire thing. And I finally finished it. Oh my god, it took ages. I liked it, but I also lost a lot of motivation on the way because it's just so long. My shortest book is only about 6 pages, and that is Gaudi to o Sampo, which means A Walk with Gaudi by Pau Estrada. This is in Japanese, but I bought it in Spain, in Barcelona. It's about Gaudi, who was an architect, and it's like a children's book, and I got it at the Sagrada Familia because I thought it was so pretty, and it has like nice pictures in it, and it's really cute, and I got to practice my Japanese, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's a really sweet book and just really colorful and pretty, and that's like the main reason I got it. But it's also the shortest book I read and probably have ever read in the last like 20 years or so. Then we come to the most disappointing book of the year, and I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I've talked about this at length before, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. It was so bad, and compared to what I'd heard of it, like, that is this enormous, like, what's that called? A cleft? Like a cleft, that sounds weird. There's a chasm, a wide gap between how people like hyped this book up and what I got from it. Like, my reading experience of this was painful. I talked about this at length in a video rant review, so I will link that if you want to see it. It was just so bad, and I was extremely disappointed because I actually really enjoyed the first section. It was probably like a 4-star read for the first section, and I said in that video, it's like so much worse. So much worse when you can see the potential a book has, and then it's just completely eradicated. Like, it's so frustrating. Okay, the next question is a little bit more positive, and that's, what's the most surprising book that you read this year? So I've said before, I don't really get that many surprising books because I'm kind of picky. You might not think I am, but I'm kind of picky with the books I buy and read because I like to look up like reviews, and if there's like specific, I like buzzwords in reviews, or like buzz points that people make, and I will already know like, oh, this is not for me, and then I won't read it. So I don't tend to read a lot of surprising books, so like books that I think are okay and then I love them. But this next one is kind of that. And that's The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I thought it was gonna be an okay book. I'd heard it's like a classic horror book, and I don't really tend to enjoy classics that much. I don't really know why. I just tend to not enjoy classics that much. They're much more of a chore for me to read. It's not as old of a classic, maybe that's the difference. Like, there's obviously classics that were written like in the 1800s that are like so dense, and then this is written in 1950, so it's kind of, it's very different in terms of writing style. And I really loved it though. I really enjoyed it. It was so witty. It was funny. It was kind of haunting. Like, it wasn't overtly scary. It was the atmosphere was just like haunting. That's the very appropriate, I know. That's the only like way that I know how to describe it, and I really enjoyed it. I just like, I didn't want to put it down. I kept reading. I love everything about it, and I really want to read more by Shirley Jackson now because I just enjoyed the writing style overall, and I was just very positively surprised by my experience with this book, and I think I gave it like 4.5 stars. Then we have what is the best book that you read this year, and you know, you already know that. Like, I talk about this book like once a week, it feels like. Literally any chance I get, I will hype up this book, and I won't stop until the end of time, probably. That's The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I was gonna say Hugo. Oh wow, no. Don't even want to compare those two. Very different books, oh my god. Spoiler alert, I really didn't like Evelyn Hugo. But Evelyn Hardcastle is so freaking good. Oh my god, I know there's a lot of hype around this book, or people call it hype. I don't think it's as hyped as a lot of other books, but this is one that definitely deserves it. Like, it is so freaking good. It's a mystery, kind of written a little bit in the style of Agatha Christie. Sir Turner also said that that's what his inspiration came from, but it's also a very modern like take on the genre, I think, and it definitely has like, it does like its own thing entirely. It's about this one guy, and he comes to like a house party in a villa, and we don't really know what year, but it's not the present time, and he doesn't know who he is. He has like lost all his memories, but when he comes into the house, the people greet him, and he apparently belongs there. And then later that night, the lady of the house, the daughter of the house, Evelyn Hardcastle, dies. And then he goes to bed normally, and the next day he wakes up on the same day but in a different body of one of the other party guests, and he realizes that his kind of quest is to relive that one day over and over again until he can solve the murder of Evelyn Hardcastle. And it is magnificent. I have also done an individual review for this that you shall definitely watch, because this book, my friends, is so amazing, and I have high standards, as we all know. I am not quick to love books and to so unequivocally love books, but I do love this one, and I will probably reread it like 10 more times. And then conversely, what is the worst book that you've read this year? And for this, there's actually not that many that I like violently hate. I mean, The Poppy War is on the fence of being one of the worst books, but I feel like I can't like separate the book from my experience of like reading it and being so disappointed. So I don't think it's like the worst book I've read. It's just so disappointing, and that's like my main emotion. And so I think the worst book, like objectively speaking, the worst book that I tried reading this year was The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. This was actually the very first book I read in the year. So that was a great start. I actually DNF'd this about 100 pages into it or so because it was hot garbage. It's like paranormal fantasy. It's poorly written. Nothing makes sense. It's kind of misogynistic. I hated it with a passion, and I was hoping it was gonna get better, but I just kept getting angry, and eventually I was like, I need to put this down. I can't continue. It's impossible. It's beyond, I'm not that big of a person to keep reading such a terrible book, and so probably The Rook, even though I didn't even finish it. Number 7 is, what is a new topic that you just got into or started reading more about this year? And for me, it's definitely mountain climbing, and I didn't know I was interested in this at all, but I read Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer, and I adored the book. It was so suspenseful. Like, it was a non-fiction book, but it was so suspenseful, and I really enjoyed it. And I really want to read like more mountain climbing books of like mountain climbing accidents or what happened, those kind of things. Like, it's just like these extreme situations and like super dangerous situations, and people like sort of developing almost like superhuman powers, you know, to overcome it, and it's just extremely interesting. I love it, and I'm probably, as I said, gonna read like a bunch more books like that because I just think that they're so suspenseful, if they're written correctly, obviously. What is a genre that you newly discovered for yourself this year? That's difficult because I think at this point in my reading life, I'm reading almost everything and I'm enjoying almost everything. Like, every genre has the potential for me to enjoy it. I just need to be in the right mood, and it needs to be a good book. But I'm not a very like exclusionary reader. I'm not sure how to explain that, how like to put it properly, but like I don't really discriminate, right? I read Any genre and all genres is fine by me as long as the book is good. But I think a new genre that I'm like more interested in reading, or like discovered having more interest in reading, is historical fiction. I'm finding I'm really interested in it, and I think last year I was talking about liking non-fiction. Historical fiction has kind of like a similar meaning for me, because I feel like I'm learning about other people in different times and cultures, but I'm learning about those times not from like the Wikipedia page or from like a documentary, but like through the eyes of like an imagined person, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying this type of learning, basically. It feels much more personal, and it feels much more memorable because of it, because I have like a name to put to the events, or like a name to put to the suffering and like whatever else that these people experience. And I'm finding it really, really fun, and I really want to get into more historical fiction, especially next year. Just kind of to broaden my historical fiction horizon a little bit. I really want to read about Rome a lot. That's weirdly something I'm very interested in, like the Roman Empire, to follow the Roman Empire, like all that kind of historical fiction. So if you have recommendations for that, definitely let me know. What is your biggest regret when it comes to reading this year? So my biggest regret has more to do with this time now, with December, or in general my reading for the last, I guess, 1 or 2 months. It's been terrible. I have not had a smooth sailing reading experience. I've been in a reading slump, like in and out of reading slumps all the time. I started, I think, like 10 books, and this is my biggest regret, like starting so many books and not finishing them, and knowingly, like knowing that I'm not 100% into reading, just picking up another book in the hopes that it'll pull me out, and instead it'll just turn into another unfinished book. And this is so frustrating. I tell you, I've said this before, it puts so much pressure on you, at least on me, when I have a pile of half-read books that I know I should all be getting to soon, because if I don't, I'll forget what I've read so far. But I just also at the same time having no motivation to read any of them, and it's stupid. I have to stop doing it. It's so dumb. Like, if I'm not feeling like reading, I should just be like, okay, I'm just not reading. Or try to read the book I've already started, but like not be like, no, I want to read this and this and this. Next question, what is your biggest accomplishment this year? I don't really feel like I've had a good year, like on BookTube. You can watch my last video if you want more on that, but I don't really feel like I've had any real accomplishments on BookTube this year. It sounds sad to say, but I just don't feel I had a good year. But I think one of what I would kind of consider an accomplishment is that I did make an effort to read and review 2018 releases this year. I have an entire playlist of those review videos if you want to check it out. But I've never really made it much of a point until this year to read new releases, and I'm kind of glad I did, and like, yeah, happy I stuck to it and like reviewed every single one in an individual video. Number 11, what is a book that you regret buying? I've done an entire video on this actually. You can check it out if you want, on books I regret buying. Definitely all of those. Just to like pick the biggest, the main one, that's definitely Illuminate by Jake Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. And retrospectively, I'm actually not that mad about it, because somebody in that video where it was like, I regret buying this, was like, you should just return it. Like, return it on Amazon, like, check the return policy and send it back. And so I did, or at least I tried, because they were just like, the book was like 10 bucks on Amazon, and they were like, you know what, just keep it, we'll refund you the money, but they didn't say this, but I think it's just like more expensive for them to have to pay for shipping back instead of just letting me keep it. It's like not worth the price, I guess, so I got it for free. So I initially regretted buying it, but then later I was like, actually, not that bad. I have a book now that I will probably eventually donate or something that I got for free, so yay. And finally, what is a book that you were the happiest you bought this year? And for this question, I kind of have to go with my gut, because I'm happy I buy all books except when I don't like them. But even then, like, as long as they're kind of looking pretty, I'm quite happy with it. Sounding super superficial, I know. But anyway, the book I'm quite happy with buying this year was Alice by Christina Henry. And the reason why is because this is one of the few books that I bought just on a whim. And I really barely do this. I'm quite picky, and I like to at least think I'm gonna enjoy a book, and that's usually based on other people's reviews, and also my back catalog of books I like wanna buy that have been out for a long time is enormous, and so I obviously prioritize books that I already know something about and have already like felt interest in over books I know nothing about. But this I'm so happy about because I loved it. It's an Alice's Adventures in Wonderland retelling. It's gothic and horror kind of style, and it's really good, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the writing style, and I think I'm definitely going to be reading a lot more by Christina Henry in the future. And so that kind of is not just me being happy about buying this particular book, like this edition or whatever, but just discovering this author, discovering this book, and yeah, I'm just really excited about reading more by her. That's, I think, the best time to end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your answer to any of the questions I talked about today. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and click the notification bell, because as I said, I'm doing a lot of videos in December. I'm uploading probably mostly 3 times a week, so don't miss out. And I will see you very soon with another video. Until then, have a lovely week. Bye!